At the mere age of 35, Captain Ibrahim Traore became the youngest head of state in the entire world. Coming to power after a successful coup back in September 2022, Ibrahim Traore is now the military leader, president of Burkina Faso, and perhaps the most powerful man in Africa. He is making phenomenal changes that got leaders like Muammar Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein killed. Yes, things are quite serious, and he is fighting a battle which stays hidden from the world. That's the reason why 2 coup attempts have been carried out against him. We all know who is behind these coups. But how is he making changes which earlier African leaders could not? How has he become the center of attention in not only Africa but the entire world, kicking France out and reclaiming what belongs to his country? Or better, we should ask how he is making the West and France scared, challenging their supremacy and becoming a new powerhouse himself. Let's find that out and know how he is a leader Africa will never have again. Ibrahim Traore was born in 1988 in Kera, Bondokui, Muhun Province. His early education took place in Bondokui, and he later attended a high school in Bobo Dioulasso, where he gained a reputation for being quiet, yet very talented. In 2006, he embarked on a journey of higher education, studying geology at the University of Ouagadougou. During his university years, Traore was actively involved in the Association of Muslim Students and the Marxist Association Nationale des Étudiants du Burkina. His dedication and advocacy for his classmates in various disputes earned him recognition. In 2009, Traore made a significant career shift, joining the ranks of the Burkinabe Army. He went on to graduate from the prestigious Georges Namoano Military Academy and received specialized anti-aircraft training in Morocco before being assigned to an infantry unit in Kaya, a town in Burkina Faso's north. Over the years, Traore's military career advanced rapidly. He achieved the rank of lieutenant in 2014 and subsequently joined MINUSMA, a United Nations peacekeeping force actively engaged in the Mali War. His valor came to the forefront in 2018 when he was recognized as one of the MINUSMA soldiers who displayed courage during major rebel attacks in the Tombouctou region. After his tenure with MINUSMA, Traore returned to Burkina Faso and played a crucial role in operations against the escalating jihadist insurgency. He participated in various counter-insurgency missions, including the Otapouanou offensive of 2019. His dedication and leadership qualities led to his promotion to the rank of captain in 2020. During this period, Traore grew disillusioned with the leadership of Burkina Faso, witnessing the inadequate equipment of Burkinabe soldiers while political figures were involved in corruption scandals. He emerged as the spokesperson for frustrated soldiers stationed in the north, voicing their concerns over the government's handling of military matters. Hence, Traore played a key role in the January 2022 Burkina Faso coup d'etat that brought the patriotic movement for safeguard and restoration, military junta to power. However, he did not assume power himself, rather became an instrument in carrying out a successful coup. Following the coup, he served as the head of an artillery regiment in Kaya from March 2022. Growing dissatisfaction with the junta's inability to effectively address the jihadist insurgency, especially among younger officers who had first-hand experience on the front lines, led to Traore's involvement in planning another coup. He and other officers tried to persuade Damiba, the junta's leader, to refocus on the rebellion, but eventually, they decided to remove him from power, citing his diverging ambitions. The coup unfolded on September 30th, with Traore still holding the rank of captain. The operation received support from the Cobra unit. Immediately after the coup, Traore declared himself the new leader of the patriotic movement for safeguard and restoration. Hence, on October 6th, he assumed the position of interim president as head of state, supreme head of the armed forces. The coup occurred amid efforts by Russia and Turkey to increase their influence in the Sahel region. Some of these endeavors involved the Wagner Group, whose founder, Yevgeny Prigozhin, had been a close ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin until the Wagner Group rebellion in June 2023. There had also been a growing discontent with France, the primary ally of Sahel countries in the fight against jihadists. Many in Burkina Faso favored replacing France with Russia. France could see how it will be kicked out of Burkina Faso within the next few months. The coup began in the early morning with heavy gunfire and explosions in various parts of the capital, Ouagadougou. Masked soldiers from the Cobra unit erected blockades, mainly in the city center. Clashes occurred at Camp Babassi, where Damiba was primarily based, and gunfire was reported at the Kosciuszko Palace. State TV ceased broadcasting. Negotiations between the coup plotters and the government proved unsuccessful. In the evening, Captain Traore announced the removal of Damiba, citing his inability to address the worsening Islamist insurgency. He imposed a curfew, suspended political and civil society activities, closed borders, and suspended the constitution. Traore declared himself the new head of the patriotic movement for Safagwar and restoration, dissolved the government, and disbanded the Transitional Legislative Assembly. The new junta, led by Traore, accused Damiba of attempting to flee and mount a counter-coup. Damiba refuted these allegations. Eventually, religious and community leaders mediated a resignation agreement, with Damiba demanding specific guarantees, including the protection of his allies, security, and the fulfillment of promises to restore civilian rule within 2 years, as made to the economic community of West African states. Damiba resigned and went into exile in Togo with the assistance of army officers. Within no time, Captain Ibrahim Traore assumed all power, holding Burkina Faso in his fist. For the very first time in years, Burkina Faso saw a coup which was aimed at kicking out France and making the country powerful. Once Ibrahim Traore came to know that his position was strong and he had the support of the public, he initiated a full-fledged operation no one expected. First, he ordered the French troops to leave Burkina Faso, besides all French officials. This was a zero-tolerance policy, where no dialogue could budge him from his stance. While serving in the military, he saw how France controlled and blackmailed presidents. Hence, he decided to first get rid of the French troops who acted as a blackmailing force. Burkina Faso's military government ordered French troops stationed in the West African country to leave within a month. The decision was announced by the official Agence d'Information de Burkina. This was not just a sign of deteriorated relations between France and its former colony following a second military coup in September of the previous year. It was a testament that Burkina Faso had chosen its side, which was not with France. The AIB stated that the military government had suspended a 2018 military accord, which had allowed the presence of French troops in the country. At the time, France had approximately 400 special forces soldiers stationed in Burkina Faso. France tried to linger on this issue, but soon it realized that Captain Ibrahim Traore won't accept any other option than troops withdrawal. It had become clear that despite French troops' presence on Burkinabe soil with huge equipment and their power at the intelligence level, they could not defeat terrorism. The argument was that the French troops had not come to fight terrorism, but to ensure French influence manifested itself. It therefore was time for Burkina Faso to get rid of them. You should know that Ibrahim Traore was not making these decisions on his own, acting like a dictator. Rather, he had his hand on the public pulse, and the public wanted French troops out of their country. That's why hundreds of Burkinabes had demonstrated against France, gathering in the capital, Ouagadougou, demanding the expulsion of the French envoy and the closure of its military base in Burkina Faso. They had displayed large posters featuring the leaders of Mali and Guinea, both of whom had come to power in coups, along with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Hence, with no other option to cling to Burkina Faso, France announced that it would withdraw its troops within a month. The end of on-foot soldiers, which ensured French influence and interests in Burkina Faso, was the end of the French era in Burkina Faso. The roots had been cut, and the only thing left was to get rid of private elements looting Burkina Faso. That's when Captain Ibrahim Traore decided to reclaim Burkina Faso's gold mines controlled by French companies. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. You should know that Burkina Faso's military leadership is actively pursuing a strategy to increase the local processing of gold, aiming to regain control over the country's primary source of revenue. This move comes in response to a significant decline in gold production, which saw a 15% decrease in the previous year. Burkina Faso, located in West Africa and predominantly reliant on gold exports, is now considering the establishment of a gold refinery to add more value to its precious metal mining operations. Interim President Ibrahim Traore stressed the importance of this refinery, describing it as a crucial change that needs prioritization within the sector. Gold constituted a substantial portion of Burkina Faso's total exports in 2020, accounting for 37% of the total. However, production figures tell a different story, with estimates showing a decrease from 68 tons to 58 tons in the previous year. Captain Ibrahim Traore announced that he would create an agency that would oversee all the gold mining operations. This agency will ensure that the gold mined in Burkina Faso is used for the country's benefit not to fill the French coffers. Not only this, but Captain Ibrahim Traore is diversifying allies and choosing Russia over the West and France. This is something which Muammar Gaddafi did. Instead of holding the West as its ally and depending entirely on it, Gaddafi reached Russia and confessed that it was in Libya's national interest. Now, Ibrahim Traore is doing the same. Instead of making Western enemies its own enemies, he is deciding by considering who can be a better strategic ally of Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traore has highlighted Russia's role as a crucial strategic ally, while refuting allegations of Russian mercenaries, supporting Burkinabe forces in their struggle against armed groups associated with Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Attention has turned to Ouagadougou's relations with Moscow, especially as anti-French sentiments have been growing in specific parts of the region. In February, Burkina Faso expelled French troops after terminating an agreement that had authorized France to combat armed groups within the country since 2013. In an unusual televised interview, Traore fielded questions about Burkina Faso's international allies in the ongoing conflict that has resulted in thousands of casualties and displaced around 2.5 million people across the broader Sahel region over the past decade. Traore made it clear, stating, "The departure of the French army doesn't mean that France is no longer an ally. We have strategic allies too. We have forged new forms of cooperation. Russia, for instance, is a strategic ally." By saying this, he clearly indicated the fact that a country can have two strategic allies which are enemies of each other. The West has engaged in thinking like colonial masters. They want every country to cut its ties with Russia only because it thinks Russia is an enemy. Captain Ibrahim Traore has rejected this and has made it clear that Burkina Faso will not leave one strategic ally just to please another. You see, the increasing influence of Russia in the Sahel and nearby regions has raised concerns among Western nations. France withdrew its forces from Mali last year after the Malian military government initiated collaboration with the Russian military contractor Wagner Group to combat armed groups. France had maintained a presence in Mali since 2013, but the failure to eradicate the rebels left Malians disillusioned with their former colonial rulers. What's more, Captain Traore had his eyes on the West's propaganda machine as well. Hence, he started a crackdown on French media in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso's military junta took the much-needed step of suspending the French magazines and news channels which were spreading Western propaganda. The suspension came in response to what the junta deemed false articles and news that reported on tensions and discontent within the country's armed forces, as conveyed in an official statement. This suspension of Jeune Afrique, a French magazine, represents the most recent episode in an escalating crackdown on French media since Burkina Faso fell under military rule last year. In their official statement, the junta accused the magazine of attempting to undermine the credibility of the armed forces and of spreading disinformation to incite chaos. Before the suspension of Jeune Afrique, the junta had already suspended French-funded broadcasters Radio France Internationale and France 24. These suspensions were based on allegations that these media outlets provided a platform for Islamist militants involved in an insurgency across the Sahel region south of the Sahara. In April, two French journalists working for newspapers Le Monde and Libération were expelled from Burkina Faso. Libération argued that the suspension was unwarranted, asserting that the two journalists had impeccable integrity and all their paperwork was in order. This crackdown on foreign media has now been extended to include the suspension of a French television news channel, La Chaîne Info. The junta claimed that a report on a jihadist insurgency aired by LCI lacked objectivity and credibility. After finding every element paralyzed in Burkina Faso, France finds itself helpless to use its influence against Captain Ibrahim Traore. Earlier, France used to stage coups in African countries whenever the African leaders did something against French interests. French troops threatened to use force and encouraged rebellions in the military, while French media houses and journalists justified the coup carried out on French will. But now, as Captain Ibrahim Traore has made these elements useless, France has no tools to replace him. What's more, Captain Ibrahim Traore announced that when weighed against security, elections are not the foremost priority for the nation. This has materialized French fears. This means that Captain Ibrahim Traore will be in power for an undecided period, ensuring that France is left with no influence in Burkina Faso. Initially, Traore had committed to steering the country back toward democracy and organizing presidential elections by July 2024. However, he has now unveiled plans to initiate constitutional changes aimed at better representing the interests of the general population. Traore explicitly articulated, "Let me be clear, elections are not the top priority. Security is." He knows how France can use its influence if he gives up power and allows a civilian to take power. Therefore, he wants to make constitutional changes which will ensure that a civilian president is never blackmailed by France. Only then will he allow elections. Captain Ibrahim Traore is different from his fellow presidents who earlier ruled Burkina Faso. He candidly said, "We, African heads of state, must cease acting like puppets who dance whenever the imperialists pull our strings." No one has said such bold statements before. His remarks drew parallels to Thomas Sankara, who, like Traore, had assumed power in Burkina Faso through a coup. He is remembered as a revolutionary leader who loved Burkina Faso and wanted his country to be independent. That's the he would make. What do you think? Can Captain Ibrahim Traore revive and fulfill the dreams of African leaders like Nelson Mandela and Muammar Gaddafi? Isn't he more powerful to resist any interventions and attempts to dethrone him? Let us know whether he can be a leader who unites Africa and makes it the most powerful continent on the planet. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching. And until the next video, stay tuned.